Hey guys, Izzy here again with Team TC with another episode of Card of the Week. Now this week we're going to be talking about a bit of an unexpected card, which is Blaine's Quiz Show, which will be coming out in Unified Minds in about a week or so. Now, Blaine's Quiz Show reads, put a Pokemon from your hand face down in front of you and tell your opponent the name of the attack on that Pokemon, or an attack. Either or. If it only has one, you just say the attack, or if it has two, you pick one. Your opponent guesses the name of that Pokemon. Reveal the Pokemon. If your opponent guessed right, they draw 4 cards. If they guessed wrong, you draw 4 cards. Return the Pokemon to your hand. Now, I think Blaine's Quiz Show is a really interesting addition to some decks, however, it may be inviable to others. Some of the decks that it is inviable in would be Pikachu and Zekrom GX, just because its attacks are so iconic and it's such a large deck in the metagame that basically everyone understands that Full Blitz and Tag Bolt are the 2 attacks on Pikachu, Zekrom, etc., etc. They're just going to recognize it, like, immediately. It's the same with Zapdos. Zapdos only has 1 attack, it's Thunderous Assault, and after Zapdos taking some wins at some larger competitions, I don't think it would be really viable to have Blaine's Quiz Show be in addition to any deck with Zapdos in it. Another decks that I don't think would work with this card would be Baby Blacephalon with Blazer and Fireball Circus, just because Blacephalon is a very prominent deck in the meta right now, and it's the same with Reshiram Charizard GX. It's just super prominent. People have heard the attacks multiple times. There's no way at this point that they haven't played against a Reshiram GX deck if they've gone to any competitions, and it's just a super repetitive deck that sets up the same and attacks the same every single time, and etc, etc. They'll just know immediately that you put down a Reshiram Charizard. The Eevee Snorlax, though, if you tech an Eevee Snorlax in that deck, might be a viable card for that, but once again, that's just relying on a single 1 of, or even 2 of, which is more than likely that it's going to be prized than not, if you get what I mean. However, some decks that I think this card is very viable in would be the Caturday deck. Now, with Caturday, essentially the concept is you use the Persian from Unbroken Bonds with its ability to allow any other Pokemon with the Caturday attack to have no attack cost. So basically you don't need any energy, you can just focus on trainers in the Pokemon themselves. Now with this deck, typically you have 4 to 5 variations of Pokemon with the attack Caturday. So you have 1 in 5 different Pokemon that you could be laying down. You just lay one face down and you say Caturday, and then they have 5 choices to pick from, essentially, which statistically gives you the advantage to get to draw the 4 cards, which would be pretty bomb and give you a pretty bomb hand advantage. Now, another deck that is going to become probably pretty prominent later on as some more sets comes out. I have to remind myself of the name of them. I haven't really checked up on them. I will later, but is the new Raichu that is coming out. Now, the new Raichu that's coming out has Nuzzle as an attack, which would make it viable for a Nuzzle-based deck, such as the Raichu GX one that we see prominently in the meta right now. Now, essentially how this deck will work is almost every single Pokemon in the deck has the attack Nuzzle. Using Emolga, which has Nuzzly Gathering, you're able to search your deck for a Pokemon that also has the attack Nuzzle and put it into your hand. Now, I think Blaine's Quiz Show wouldn't be very viable if you searched for the Pokemon, put it in your hand, and then put it face down, because that's just a bad play. But you could do some trick plays where maybe you have a Pikachu in your hand, then you Nuzzly Gathering for another Emolga, and then you do a swap and put the Pikachu down instead of the Emolga down that you just grabbed, so your opponent sees the Emolga and thinks it's going to be the Emolga. But once again, they have 4 choices to pick from, and the odds are really heavily in your favor that you'll get to draw those 4 cards. And 4 cards, mid-game, beginning game, end game, can cause quite a bit of an advantage. It could be like whether you get those 2 custom catchers if you already have one in your hand. It could be whether you draw into that switch or that extra energy, whatever you really need. So I just think Blaine's Quiz Show, because it allows the option for your opponent to get to draw cards if they get it right, which kind of, it helps the Pokemon community learn more about who has what attack and kind of remember this kind of thing, just because they want that 4 cards as well. But it might not be used enough to matter. We'll see. Alrighty. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.